7:35, I will call this regular Board of Education meeting to order. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, and thank you to everybody for being here and for speaking. Our first item on the agenda is some communication. We have one letter of resignation that was included in our packet, and an additional letter of resignation on our sheet this evening. Pat, would you like to speak about those?
Certainly. We did receive a notice of resignation for one of our 8-year IAs who will be resigning her position as a paraprofessional from the elementary school. She very much enjoyed working with her coworkers and amazing children and wishes everyone continued success and health in the year to come. Her last day will be this coming Friday, and that is from Laura Tartaglia. And that's a notice. We also have Dear Lebanon Board of Ed, this is to notify you of my intent to retire as of June 30th. This has been a difficult decision as I have most enjoyed my time as a school nurse at Lebanon Middle School, and this year has been more of a challenge than most. I think I shall miss the LMS staff the most. They have been helpful and caring throughout my years here. Most of those that I started with have retired or moved on. Those who have replaced them have been wonderful as well. This being said, I would like the opportunity to return occasionally as a substitute nurse for Lebanon. Thank you, and that's from Holly Parker. So I'm sure you'll deal with them later and accept with great relief.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you. I can imagine being a school nurse during this time is very, very challenging, and we certainly do appreciate her hard work. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Item number 3 on our agenda is recognition. We have some LES Invention students. Mrs. Olson?
Yes.
How are you?
Good. So I'm here to introduce you to our LES Invention Convention finalists. I'm going to talk a little bit and then we'll do it. Okay. So these are our finalists. We have here's a wave, Oliver, Allie Ruffo, and Kendall Costin. They they will represent our school at the virtual finals that will be held in May. Well, they've already submitted their videos, and the award ceremony will be in the end of May. These inventors, along with I started with about 30 inventors, and then ended up with about 20 who had final inventions in our LES Virtual Invention Convention and went through the entire process. These students had to come up with some type of problem that bothered them, bugged them, that they were passionate about. They had to design a solution. They had to create their invention, test it, and then they had to communicate the entire process through a slideshow and a video. Those were extra layers this year that we haven't had to do in past years. So it was quite a process, and I really love my inventors, but especially my 3 finalists who are going to the States. So we have their invention videos that we'd like to share tonight that they've worked really hard on. So we'll start with Allie. Allie's in grade 2, and she's in Miss Burrell's class, and Allie created the Extend-A-Hat. So we're going to see your video in a moment, Allie. We may have to have Ally tell us about it.
That's cute. That's adorable.
She has a great setting too with the sun coming down into the camera. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Stop sharing.
To make it extend, so here's the Velcro, and then there's Velcro on the other half.
Were there any other?
Awesome. Name is Adeline, so I'm in second grade in this class elementary school. My invention is Extendo app.
Please tell us what problem this invention solves.
It solves the sun getting in your eyes because the sun moves around all over the sky and it gets into your eyes.
Can you show us how it works, please?
So here's the Velcro, and that's how it sticks on. You can take it off and take it off.
Can you show us what it looks like on, please? On your head. And if you turn to the sun, how did you come up with this idea?
My dad's a golfer, and he has trouble seeing, and he sometimes misses the
You ever have this problem with the sun getting in your eyes?
Yes, at the beach, I tried to put in a visor and a regular hat, but I was still squinting a lot, and I fell into the water, and I couldn't really see anything, and I didn't know where I was.
Okay. How did you come up with using these materials or even to make the hat extend?
Well, I came up with it to make it extend. So here's the Velcro, and then there's Velcro on the other half.
Were there any other materials that you tried at first?
We tried, first we tried the magnets, and they weren't strong enough.
And then you switched to the Velcro?
Yeah.
Very good. And the Velcro is strong enough?
Yes.
Very good. Did you do any research to see if this invention already exists?
Yes, and it is only the one baseball cap but they don't extend in and out.
Very good. So can you show us one more time how this works?
Here's
So it's like a regular hat.
but then you stick it on, and then
And why did you decide to name it Extendo hat?
because it extends in and out like this.
Did you test your invention to see if it worked?
Yes.
And is it working right now?
And when you look at the sun, and it's working.
Very good. Does this help people in any way?
Yes, it helps people by the sun getting in their eyes because it goes across the
So you're saying that the sun can be dangerous to our skin?
Yes, and your eyes.
So this hat is protecting your skin and eyes. Who might use your invention?
Everybody who loves playing outside and golfing and swimming and going to the beach.
Yes, I think I would like to try it. If you were going to sell this hat, this extendo hat, how much would you sell this hat for?
$5.
Oh, that's a bargain. Thank you for sharing this invention with us. Allie Ruffo and the
Extendo hat.
So, Allie, we just... Can she hear?
No.
Oh, sorry. So, Allie, we just watched your video. We were having some sound problems, so we couldn't broadcast it to you with the sound, but we just watched the video and everybody loved it. Really nice. Let's see, we have Kendall next. Kendall is in grade 3 in Mr. Lattigard's class, and Kendall created Casey's cup cones. And we're going to watch your video next, Kendall. So again, we're going to have to stop, or we won't be able to broadcast it on your meeting, but we're going to watch it here, and then we'll talk to you after, okay?
Okay.
Casey's cup cones.
My name is Kendall Constant. I'm in 3rd grade in Mr. Lattigard's class. The name of my invention is Casey's cup cone. And it's basically a cup and a cone mixed together to make one whole product that looks like this. This one's smaller for little hands. And the people who will use my invention will be ice cream shop workers and kids that go there and parents. And this invention solves the problem of kids getting all messy in their car and moms and dads have to clean them up after just having one little ice cream. My invention is original because we looked online and we didn't find anything like that, like this. And so we looked, and all we could find was plastic cup cones, which aren't edible. And what makes my invention different from those inventions, is because this is made of actual ice cream cone material. And so there's a lot of steps during this process. But the first step was me and my dad sat down and drew pictures and designed it and made pictures of the mold and the cup cone and how it would work and the whole thing was trial and error. So then we went to designing it. And so we said that a shake top would work from McDonald's. And then a sugar cone would work too, because we were trying to get an ice cream cone shape. And so we huddled that together. That was kind of a challenge because we had to line the shamrock-shaped top up perfectly. And then when we were done with the design, we moved on to molding. And so the molding was kind of a change because we tried to use software pairs to make it cast. So we put the silicone in there to, give the shape of the cup. But that didn't work because we didn't know that plaster repairs that fast. And so we tried using cup, not the cup on top of the cone, of course, like a regular cup. And so we used that, and we came out with this. And so that's the cup shape around it that we used. And here's the shamrock-shaped top, and in there, that's the sugar cup. And then we used the inside of the mold that we made, and we've got this, and that's the cup right here. And then here's the sugar cone we used, and that's our mold. And my mom's pretty good at baking, so it was a little challenge because the ice cream batter wasn't reaching up to make the top part. So we tried cookie dough because I used cookie dough to make a blue little tree, and it worked in the exact same shape of our cone here. And so I assumed that it would work on the cup. And so that's how we do it. If I had to do anything to improve it, I would probably make the cone a little longer and a little deeper, and I would make the cup a little bigger, and I would use some new technology to make this a better mold, so it would, make a better form of the cup cone. And that's basically what I would do to improve it. The whole process was very fun. And I would like to thank you for the time and opportunity you gave me to share my invention.
What a great video, Kendall. We all really enjoyed it. I think you made some of us hungry for ice cream, too.
Thank you.
Lastly, we have 4th grader Oliver Hebb, who created the nail bit. So we're going to watch Oliver's video next.
Hi, I'm Oliver, and I'm a 4th grader. My invention is called Nail Bit. I am a nail and I'm always putting things in my mouth. I've tried everything to stop, like using better nail polish, trimming my nails, wearing elastic around my wrist, and nothing worked. I'm sure other kids have this problem, so I decided to find a solution. I read from 2 sources, kidshealth.org and ScienceDirect.com, that 30 to 60% of kids bite their nails. I learned that it is a habit that many kids like me are doing, and they're not even aware that they are doing it. Did you know that girls and boys are equally likely to bite their nails when they're younger? But when they get older, boys are more likely to bite their nails. Many think it is caused by tension and anxiety. If I could have solved this problem, I think I would worry less, be healthier, and my parents wouldn't force me any. my skin. I learned how to use a hot glue gun to stick all of these on my glove. I did at least 4 tests each time I made changes to my glove. I wore it when I was stressed out at school and on a virtual learning day. I found out that it was too noisy and distracting for my classmates, so I decided to get rid of the Velcro some of the Velcro and create attachments that I could take off the glove but still play with to help me focus. I realized that I had many happy accidents. For example, when I glued pieces on the wrong side of the glove, I could help out left-handed and right-handed people. I worked through problems with my hand being too hot and sweaty, which led me to do other tests. One led me on an expedition to search for different kinds of gloves around my house. I made decisions like not using a batting glove, even though it felt really nice, because it was something I did not want to wreck with the fidgets. The decision led me to stick with my original glove. I found that the glove also worked great when I was bored and needed something to fiddle with in the car. My classmates gave me suggestions about what worked for them with stress. One of the top choices was the stress ball. I thought this was a great idea, so I went to Pinterest and learned how to make my own. I put the stress ball on a piece of Velcro and it fit perfectly in the middle part inside my glove. I found out you could also put the stress ball on the outside, so you could use it on the other hand to play with or just remove the stress toy. I thought about making my own toy that was like a Rubik's Cube. I found a bendable pipe cleaner and some beads that could move. I decided to put Velcro on the end so you could attach it to whatever Velcro piece you choose. You could also lift it off with the glove. The Velcro gives me options to add different attachments, different things, and place the attachments in different places. I had a lot more stress during this pandemic because I wasn't always able to see my friends, and this caused me to bite my nails more. I think my invention could help other kids because they might have stress and bite their nails too. The fidgets on my glove could be useful or helpful to them. My materials to make the glove are cheap, and you can find most of them in your own house. I also know that people have less money because of the pandemic's financial devastation and loss of mortgage. My invention is also good for the environment because you can reuse the materials for other purposes. Here's a fun fact to leave you with. You know that it's called onomatopoeia. Thanks for listening.
Oliver, we just watched your video. It was fantastic. Did you guys bring your inventions to the Google Meets today? Did you want to show them on camera? Oh, so nice. They're looking good. Wow. Thank you so much, friends. That was wonderful. We can't wait to hear what happens at the finals in May. We'll all be watching that award ceremony. Thanks for coming, guys. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, that's right. Thank you for bringing those to us. That was always such a treat.
Hey, John, turn that back.
Oh, thank you. All right, that will bring us to item number 4 on our agenda, which is public participation. By the bylaws of the Board of Education, we will allow up to 30 minutes for public participation. Each individual speaker who would like to participate has up to 2 minutes to participate. Is there any member of the public who would like to participate this evening? Dennis? The line.
Hi, I'm Jeanette Picard. I'm a teacher and reading consultant at the middle school. I am here, however, as the co-president of our Teachers Association. First of all, I wanted to thank all the board members for their constant support during what has become a whole year of difficulty. And we could not have survived to this point without your support and your gracious help through this time. As one of our Invention convention members noted, this has been a very stressful time. And we know that our federal government has recognized that, and that there is now support through the American Rescue Plan, a grant of about $900,000, which will provide the opportunity to address some of the needs that we have seen come to our students over this past year. There are two main needs that we see for our students. These are noticed and observed in our own experience and in research. One of the greatest needs is our students' emotional needs. This is especially true at the intermediate and middle grades with students in grades 3 through even up to grade 9 as they attempt to follow through with the transitional period while their lives have been really turned upside down. We find that some of these difficulties are insidious. While we might feel that a student is doing fine, they may be dealing with many crises just underneath the surface. And not all of us has a wonderful glove to help us through that. The other big area is skills gaps. Even in my own classes as a reading consultant, I see a greater number of students needing to work with me and a deeper level of difficulty for those students. Research has shown that class size matters, and we hope that we'll be able to use some of the funds from the grants available to us to address the needs of our students and to make sure that they have time with their teachers. Some research has shown that the difference between a class size of 15 to 18 and 23 over time can mean instruction of 3 months to 4 months time. That kids can make up a gap of loss, which just happens to be the same length as the initial distance learning period that we have, if they have a class size that's smaller, so that teachers can give their students very close attention. We know that some of this funding through the grant is not sustainable, and we recognize that. But we are dealing with the here and now. We are dealing with the students in our classrooms now who have needs, great needs. So we hope that across the board, as you are making decisions on how to spend this additional money that is funding beyond the work that you did in preparing a very well thought out budget, that you will support smaller class sizes for our school system so that we can help our students to get back what they have lost, to feel supported, to be able to grow past this most difficult time. And again, I just want to reiterate how grateful we are to have you as our board members supporting us through what has been, I will just say, a most interesting year. Thank you.
Is there another member of the public who would like to speak tonight? Okay, seeing none, we will move along on our agenda. That brings us to item number 5, our consent agenda. Is there a motion on the floor?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Motion by John to approve the consent agenda.
Seconded.
Seconded by Matt. Any discussion?
Is this the time where we add stuff to the action items?
After this.
After this,
Yes.
okay.
Any discussion on the approval of the consent agenda? No. Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please raise your hand. Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you. Nicole, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to add an action item. So action item number 7 will read, act on LED project for Lebanon Public Schools and approve a contract.
Act on LED contract, right?
Yes.
Great. Okay, Nicole has made a motion to add an additional action item. Number 7 is...
I'll second.
Thank you, John. John seconded. Did you get that, Maureen? Okay, any discussion on adding the action item? Okay, great. All those in favor of adding action item number 7, please raise your hand. Okay, that is Danelle, John, Alexis, Matt, Nicole, and Maureen in favor. All those opposed? All those abstained? And that would be good. Thank you. Motion passes. Great. So we'll get to that, and we'll have some background on that when it comes time. Great. Let's move along to our reports of committee. Let's see. Where should we start tonight? Now, would you like to start tonight with curriculum strategic plan?
Sure. We met twice since the last board meeting. The first meeting was virtual on March 30th, and our curriculum director, Holly Hollander, gave us a presentation about her plan for the district and how the vision that she has and the steps that she plans to take. There are minutes located at the table if you want to read further on that. But basically our discussion talked about things that we plan to implement and make progress through, things like reviewing and refining the SRBI, all the schools, supporting transitions of students, especially pre-K to kindergarten, 4th to 5th grade, and 8th to 9th grade. We would like to get together the teachers to do vertical conversations, pre-K through 12, using common language so people know what each other's talking about at each building. The curriculum we hope to have posted on the school website so teachers, administrators, and parents can access it. And it doesn't have to be, we plan to possibly do it through a snapshot. It's easier to read that way. With the standards at each level being listed. We also would like to update and align the math curriculum with the supports that go with it, and participate and schedule a curriculum review cycle. And then tonight's meeting was more to do with the ESSER 2 grant, $347,000 projected for us to get between September 21st and June 23rd. This has to be handed in next week, so we met tonight to talk about it a little bit. And this one addresses a lot of the things, actually all of the things that we talked about in our committee meeting, specifically looking at our middle school and changes that we think that need to happen here because, as Pat added, it's like the middle cog in a three-wheel machine. And the middle school is right in the middle, and if that is cogged up, I like her imagery, then it affects both schools at each end. And so we talked about possible changes that we might have to make for next year, but specifically what the students need at this time, and focusing on them. I mean, nobody likes change. Well, most people don't like change, but if we have things that we need to do to help the kids out at these specific levels, where they change schools, then we need to do them. And so there's a 10-page document here of ways that we can address some issues that we see. She calls them priorities 1 through 4. And so I encourage you to reach out and ask about that if you want more details about that.
Great. Thank you, Danelle. Any questions for Danelle? Great. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
I wasn't able to join the meeting tonight, but I just have a quick question about the language that we use in terms of like helping kids out versus our system being strong throughout. So can you speak to that at all?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
Are we putting it on helping the kids out, or are we working to create a strong system in our schools?
Oh, sure. The language that Holly likes to use, and I agree with it, it's systems and supports throughout the schools, K through 12, and things that we can put in place that would meet the students' needs and help them to succeed, especially at this time.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Janelle. John, Superintendent?
The Superintendent's Evaluation Committee did not meet, so there is no report.
Thanks, John. Alexis, Safety and Security?
Safety and Security did meet. We did discuss our security planning, some safety planning. We picked up some old conversations. We started some new conversations, looking into a lot of grant money. We have obviously concerns with the weather being nicer and more kids being outside, so we had some great conversations.
Did you get my email about the radios?
Yes.
Okay. Can I bring that up now? It's just a generic thing?
If you'd like.
I just was more towards Kevin. The town is thinking about going to an entirely new radio system. So buying radios for the school should be done very frugally, because we may not be on this frequency for very long. We may have to go to an all-new system if the town goes ahead with the plans they're going ahead with. So that's all I wanted. I know they were looking at some radios and purchasing some radios for the different schools. They may want to look at used radios, if they're absolutely necessary or not. I just, I didn't want to get into a big thing in the email. I just wanted to kind of explain it at the meeting. This is information I just found out recently from personnel in the town. It's not going forward yet, but they're talking about possibly spending some of their COVID money to upgrade the system to the new 800 megahertz system.
It might be a conversation for
facilities.
Kevin to communicate within the town, but thank you for bringing that up.
That's all.
All right, any other questions for Alexis? Safety and Security? Okay, great. Maureen, policy?
We have not met, but we will, because facilities and finance came up with an issue that we're going to have to deal with and investigating, and we do have to look at some other things, so as soon as we can clear out more.
Great, thank you. Dawn, communications?
No report.
Great. And Nicole, finance and facilities?
Okay, we met on March 30th. We had a meeting at 5 o'clock. We talked about the LED project. We also had an LED project update tonight from Earthlight. And basically I will be presenting another option, which is a hybrid option. Originally we were going through lamp and drivers, and now we can add some new fixtures as well for no extra money. And then, let's see, so we talked about the ventilation update on April 8th. Matt and I did a walkthrough with Anchor Engineering to look at both LES and LMS to see what is involved, as well as with Kevin French, what is involved to put a ventilation system at LES, specifically the 66 wing, which is 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade, and also the 1st grade wing as well, and also asbestos removal. We looked at some walls that need to be addressed, and also the kitchen floor at LES needs to be addressed as well. And then we did a walkthrough of LMS, this building, and we saw a number of classrooms that need some attention in the flooring because there is asbestos there as well. So Anchor Engineering is coming up with a plan, some numbers for us, some concrete numbers, so that we can move forward with that project as well. We met in the evening with the Board of Finance to see where we are with the budget, and right now they're looking at giving us a flat $20 million, correct, Pat? Right, so we asked for a little bit more than $20 million, but they're looking at just a flat $20 million because they did notate that we are getting funds from the ESSER grant and possibly the American Rescue.
ARP.
Right, that grant as well. So we are still waiting to hear the final from them. We are having a town meeting on April 19th so that we can get public input as well. And I believe that's pretty much it.
Thanks, Nicole. I have a couple of questions. Do we have a date when Anchor Engineering, or approximate when they're going to come back with a quote for us or with numbers?
Right, because we did say that we need to move along on this project, because if we're going to focus on this summer doing the LED project, we'd like to look at next summer to do something with LES and LMS. So, Kevin, have you heard anything from Anchor Engineering and some of those numbers getting back to us?
I'm meeting with Anchor Engineering on the 20th.
Of April?
No, actually, no. I'm going to the 66 on Oakwood. They called me this afternoon. That's not getting paid. I'm meeting with them next week. They'll go to the elementary school.
Okay, and then what about the rest of it?
There's nothing further since then. I'm meeting with all the contract materials for the floor for the kitchen. I'll see that at the solar company.
Okay, so next week is just the windows at LES.
So far, that's correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yep.
Back to that April 19th date. That meeting, correct me if I'm wrong, will be held by a Zoom.
I think so, too.
Yeah, actually, it was advertised at Lyman. It is not. It will be virtual. It will be via Zoom. It's posted on the town's website.
Okay, so people can get the link from the town website. Great.
What's interesting is that it's also happening again during spring break, making it quite difficult for many of us to attend. I know that it's via Zoom, so that seems silly for me to say, but it's still, it's still something that is, I wish it wasn't during spring break for our educators.
Yeah, just that's the public hearing on April 19th. That's via Zoom. On May 3rd is the town meeting, and that we are hoping, as selectmen, we're hoping to have that in person. But we need to warn it by April 23rd in order to meet the state's actual warning. So we're looking into what we need to do to do that. But I know the Board of Selectmen we are discussing that if it does go to town meeting in person, that the vote we would need to probably have a referendum for, because understanding that some people aren't comfortable still coming to in person. Okay, so that's, but it's not a done deal yet, but that's the discussion right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions for Nicole for finance and facilities? All right, great. Thank you. And Matt, no report.
No, I've been too busy with those two ladies.
All right, we'll move right along to the administrator's report. Is there anything additional that we'd like to discuss? Looks like Mr. Appicelli. By the way, as you're walking on up, Mr. Appicelli, I enjoyed reading about the senior project topics that were in the board packet. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I have an update. I accidentally sent out the wrong. I sent out a version of it, but since then it's grown. I've got numerous more people responding to our posting on Facebook about the graduates and all the stuff that they've done. So since you got this, I've gotten 7 more that I've put on here. And there was also a ECC Sportsmanship Award winner that I don't know how I missed a picture, so I put that in here so that you would see that as well. So I felt bad, so I just wanted to make sure that you guys all got this. So.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, and I put the names of the senior project monitors on this one too. So Mark Morello was the senior project coordinator, but I put all the monitors who submitted stuff for me, because I kind of did this last minute. Ken Oaks behind me suggested that you might want to see some of the senior project topics that happened this year. So it was really, I kind of put it together fast, and these were all the people that got back to me. So, thank you for pointing that out.
Well, yes, and also in the administrator's report, how great is it? These are our alumni.
Yeah.
And the honors and recognition that they have earned, we should be so proud. This is fantastic.
Yeah, I've been tracking. I get this high school merit pages every Sunday morning, and I finally started. I'm like, oh, let's just see what's in there. So I started seeing all this stuff, and I'm like, wow, that's really cool. So I started tracking it and writing it all down, and it's weird that you see Eastern Connecticut on here, right? But they didn't have anything from anyone that went to UConn, nobody that went to Central or Southern. So it's not a perfect system. So when we put this out on Facebook, one of the things we said is, if we're missing someone, it's not, we're not doing it intentionally, just let us know. So some people responded to the Facebook post. I heard one tonight that I missed, and we're trying to find a major for what the person has, but I already put them on my master list. So it's been great, and I'll keep doing this and keep like a running list. We're going to try and post this in school too, just to let our students know all the great things that the graduates are doing too. So we're going to hope that our seniors, we're going to see them on the fall semester dean's list next year. So something to look forward to for them.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Are there any other additions to the administrator's report? Okay, great. We shall move on to our student representatives report. Hello, Delton.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing very well. Can you see me?
Yes.
All right. So, this past month, I had my first meeting with the middle school since we last met, so that's very nice. I'd like to thank Ms. Reynolds and the middle school student council president for that experience. So, at the time, the 8th grade was distance learning, just for reference. So, personally, the student council president, she prefers distance learning more. She really liked the laid-back experience and the independence and freedom to do your work schedule. Furthermore, she stressed a really large division between grades at the middle school right now, as the 5th and 6th graders hardly interact with each other. They're stuck in their classroom just all day in the exact same classroom, while there is a bit more interaction between the 7th and 8th graders, but not nearly as much as what there used to be for me for pretty obvious reasons. Essentially meaning that the middle school hardly knows each other throughout the grades. There's no cross-grade interaction, while there is plenty of that up here at Lyman. And as COVID restrictions start to lift, I think more cross-grade interaction would be really healthy for the school climate as a whole. As for the elementary school, they showed me about a few of their upcoming events that they are very excited about, including a field day and a 4th grade celebration. Furthermore, we discussed our cats and dogs and how cool they were. Moving right along to the high school, spring sports are officially up and running, which has greatly increased student morale, as well as an upcoming, hopefully in-person chorus and band concert, which is very exciting for me. And that about wraps it up on my end, so if you guys have any questions, please ask away.
Great, thank you so much, Delton. Does anybody have a question for Delton?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Dawn.
Dalton, I'm curious, which cat or dog won out at the elementary school? I don't know if you can...
Well, I am a little biased, but I like my cat the most.
Okay.
Great, thank you, Dalton. Have a good night. All right, great. That will bring us to the report of the superintendent. Item number 1 is enrollment.
I think you have the enrollment report as well as the magnet school report. We're at 947 students with 24 students, again, a little bit less than we have had in terms of magnet school students. I did ask Chelsea to work with me a little bit, just to take a look at where we are with our distance learners among the 947. So at the elementary school, we have still about 31 of our students who have elected distance learning.
Did you say 31 or 40?
31.
31.
3 of them will be returning after the April break, so slowly coming in. Yet we experienced kind of short-term distance learning due to quarantining and having to go to remote because of some of the COVID cases. So we had about 68 students who experienced that in the elementary school. The middle school, about 45 students electing distance learning. 2 will be returning, actually returned, I hope, on the 12th, and 4 will be returning after our April break. We had a rough road there with the 8th grade, plus 4 students from other classes in terms of quarantining and confirmed cases. We have about 92 students who were experiencing remote learning. And then finally, the high school really was kind of the lucky ones. We have 60 students who have elected to stick with distance learning. But during the quarantine time, in this time frame, we've only had 3 students experiencing short-term quarantine. I just thought you'd be interested in that because as I go into the next piece, it's no mystery that we're experiencing a surge right now. So I'll stop there in terms of the enrollment, if there are questions.
I don't want to overstat things, but I'm curious to know, I know our policy is that distance learners are allowed to participate in athletics. Do we know how many students are distance learners and coming to school at the end of the day for sports?
I don't know that, but I can certainly look into that.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Sure. Okay. All right, well, let me go on then to COVID-19 because it's still very much with us. And I think what I'll share with you is the issue of a surge, and that surge is not just here, but it is really rampant in Connecticut right now, as it is throughout the Northeast, going all the way up to and through the Nova Scotia area. I don't know if COVID advances the way the weather does in the United States. We all know that all weather in the country eventually comes through New England. I mean, we can see right now that even the upper Midwest is experiencing this same type of surge. Yesterday, no, actually I think it was today. Once a week there is a special briefing with all of the state epidemiologists and heads of vaccination, as well as the State Department of Ed, the legal department. And today's news was not good, that we are experiencing this surge. They are certain that it is relative to the variants. We all know that the vaccination may or may not be as effective with regard to the variants. There are 2 New York variants, and there is the UK variant. The Brazil South American variant seems to have gone right up into Canada, and it's not appearing as much in the United States, but these other 3 are, and they're very much alive and well here in Connecticut. I don't want to make more of this than we need to, but it's not lost. It's on the minds of most of our adults that even though many of us are now considered fully vaccinated, 14 days from whatever. A little bit of an issue with the Johnson & Johnson right now. But and the bulletin came out today on that there's a pause on the use of the Johnson & Johnson one shot. But what's really on my mind is the break. And I know that the school district has experienced some issues after a break. So I'm trying to watch very carefully. I'm contemplating. I've done a little bit of research. I've talked with at least one administrator to see what is happening in the week post the week off and what might happen for us. The CDC, the DPH are not recommending going directly to remote learning. But I want you to know that I'm thinking about it and considering it. I just don't know. When we see what has happened with COVID, we see the mask wearing, the social distancing, all of those things dropping by the wayside, and now we're in a surge. So I just want you to know we're thinking about it. If you have any suggestions or concerns, anything you'd like to share with me, I'm worried if we were to go to remote learning a week after the week break, what would happen during that week? Would people just travel longer? Would more of what we see happening within the community, pods of kids who are desperate to be with one another out there without masks and so on, would there just be more relaxation of the mitigation strategies? So I'm talking with the Yonkers Health District. I will talk with our school physician and others and then put something out about what the thinking is or what they're really thinking. Okay. If I can go on, the end of year activities, I know that's on the minds of many. I don't have a full look at end of years. They're just starting the planning. But I can share with you right now that the Department of Public Health and the State Department of Ed, even in their finished strong document, which they've produced, and their new interim guidance on end-of-year activities, meaning promotion ceremonies, celebrations, proms, graduations, all of those things. There's a lot of guidance in the document, but it's a little vague. There's not a strong commitment one way or the other, except that there are a few pieces to that are very strongly stated. One, push events that you are anticipating having to the absolute last possible moment that we can because of the surges and all of that. Be very careful with that. If we do plan group gatherings, we have to continue to be concerned about social distancing or physical distancing. They are wavering on any notion that 3 feet is okay. 3 feet may be okay in some circumstances, but for the most part, maximize that distancing. Continue to do that. Do not post tents. We have a very nice tent out here that will keep the rain off, but there are no sides to it. Do not put up tents that have sides and trap air and all of that. But then there's some iffiness in the guidance document, so it really is going to take a little interpretation and analysis. Having a prom or a graduation ceremony, including food, the guidance insists operationalize one sitting for the food. And can you imagine young people, 100 young people, 50 young people, and saying, the food is out one time? It would be very difficult to keep everyone at a distance. So we need to be concerned about that. I spoke today with the high school principals. We're having something outdoors. We have to have a rain or inclement weather venue. I want to make sure that we can get inside. What's that event going to look like when we get inside? So those are all considerations. So make no mistake, there's a lot to think about in terms of the end-of-year activities, and we're just really getting that process underway. I know the elementary school wants to have promotion celebrations, middle school as well, I'm sure, and then, of course, the legendary graduation ceremonies and end-of-year activities for juniors and seniors, particularly important. Got to be really careful with the week after for the high school because, of course, we have, the SATs coming up as well. So just all of that goes into the consideration of what we're looking at. I'm sure you'll hear more about all of those things. Do we have questions on that?
Are there any set dates for anything? Graduation's on the agenda item tonight, but I know there's been chatter or talk about prom and those sort of ideas.
I have a document from the high school, just so I can pull up I think it has a date on it, but Joey's here, he can probably just shout it out. Prom date?
Oh, I can't hear it.
Sorry. May 22nd, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're doing something that we're calling the Bulldog Bash. And there's two parts to it. There's going to be an afternoon part where there's activities like wiffle ball. I am a wiffle ball captain of one team. I'm just hoping that I still have an arm left by the end of the day. And then there's going to be an evening portion, too, where we have a hypnotist coming in, Jim Spinata, or I think that's his name. I've seen him before. He was great. So he's going to be performing for our kids, too.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you very much. Item number 4, search updates.
Yeah, and that's the business manager's search. I wish I had better news for you. Obviously, we miss our business manager. I hope he's with us tonight for the financials. But the search is very painstaking and slow. We have had only 5 applications. And one that is now posted but not actually fully submitted. So, we can't go much further. I would not call it a rich and substantive applicant pool. It's posted on the CASBO site. It's posted on Connecticut Reap, right up there along with a lot of business management positions. So it's going to take some more digging and perhaps some advertising dollars. But I don't believe the district should. I don't think we should be just sitting with this applicant pool before we start to.
Sounds like we might need to go ahead and use some resources. Yeah. Thank you. And may I piggyback on that also, Pat, as far as the superintendent search is concerned. As everybody knows, the superintendent search, everything is strictly confidential. However, I would like to just let the public know that the search is very well underway since the last time we met. And we, as a search committee, are intending on having things pretty well wrapped up by the first week of May. So hopefully very soon we will have news to report. It's going very, very well. We received a very rich, dynamic pool that the entire search committee is very excited about. So very positive experience so far. So can't wait to be able to present the public with more information. Okay, so we will move on to our facilities report.
Good evening. Really enjoying Nicole, myself, Matt, Scott, and the engineering business, being out from Colton, elementary school, or middle school, and the asbestos project. The kitchen we found out before the kitchen had some soft areas that need to be repaired. We're improving asbestos on the according to our asbestos management plan. So I'm going to have contact, the materials out there on 420. Next week I'm going to meet them and we're going to try to see what's going on out there. Also, the middle school, the property area is required by the plan and having asbestos, I believe is a nasty. So I'm having that head as well to see if there's asbestos containing materials in that. There's a gray area in the hallways at the middle school, all vinyl tile. But when talking with the engineers, we did not determine that the math that was tested when we renovated the school in 2007. So we're going to have that test as well to make sure there's no asbestos in the math. The next time is the math measurement test has been put back up for math grades 1 and so forth. And then the rules of the elementary school, the field work in the elementary park and rec, the asphalt field, we did a joint project with John Jordan, Mike Arnett, and Scott Elliott, the Lebanon Public Schools, along with the public works crew members, to bring the spring start up for those 2 ball fields. In total, 102 yards of diamond net and 30 yards of sand were applied to the infield to make them build. They're pretty good. They're looking pretty good. As I mentioned earlier, the middle of the 66 line, I haven't got an actual date and time, but I'm meeting the engineer out there doing the window project on the update as that expires. Aside from it, I think I mentioned the last month, Friday, March 26th, is off there, but we spent it going to school and everything in Northern Park. And update the building management system update under small improvement plan is set. The panels have been ordered, the hard time has been ordered, I'll need a date here, what I have a day remembering from the bottom of the other hand. Well, I think the district right on the settlement. We had a reclass 2 classes of 1, 13, and 15. The classes in place on 3:30, it's set out April 1st, and we're waiting the results. And I'll take any questions regarding that report.
Any questions for the facilities report?
Just a quick one. Can you clarify? Did you say 2 fields were redone?
Field 1 and 2 are asphalt field, that's correct. And 2 ball fields there.
So the middle school is only using 1 field, right?
You have the, well, I don't know what I call it, there's a softball field and a varsity field.
And Aspinall? Why are we doing Aspinall field?
Well, Aspinall is where the middle school plays, but there's only 1 field that the middle school uses there. It's the bigger field in the back.
No, not the field.
But the university plays at the elementary school.
Is it possible that we're using different language? Because my understanding is Field 1 is the T-ball field. Field 2 is right behind the T-ball field. And then down below is where the middle school field is.
That's what I thought, yeah.
And so there's only 1 field that is not maintained by Lebanon Little League. And it's neither 1 nor 2. So,
it's the bigger size field.
It's down below by the soccer fields, right?
We went down and we've been working on it for about a week. I'm not sure if I have the numbers correct. I just know what we did down there.
But you did 2?
We did all the fields down there. I didn't know exactly what we did.
What what exactly was John at the three fields?
The new field is mainly started when you go walk around in the basketball field, that first field right there.
They're talking about.
That's a little league. That's a little league.
Volleyball and a multi-purpose.
It's a ball field.
It's not
It's a big
volleyball.
ball field.
There's 3 baseball fields there, and 2 of them are Little League regulation size. And there's one.
Okay, I guess I'll confused. Where is the middle school JV play?
There's no JV team for middle school, I don't think.
There is.
Oh, okay.
When you walk from the back parking lot and you see the concession stand, the first field on the right is a Little League field. The field behind that is a Little League field. Then there's soccer fields to the left, and behind that there is a middle school field that has not been maintained for years. So that's the field that I think everybody was assuming was getting upgraded.
Doesn't that have brand new dugouts? Is that the one with the brand new dugouts?
All of them did, but it depends on who paid for it.
Which one was the recent one with the dugouts?
Well, I think Little League maintained the Little League fields, but not...
I believe it was number 2 from being on the rec board. Number 2 got the new dugout.
Which is a Little League.
And the Lebanon Rec maintains the fields, but Little League actually does all the work.
Right.
So the senior fields is the field all the way on the bottom.
Yes.
All
Below
the way
the
on the
hill.
bottom. Right, beyond the pavilion.
When you say senior field, what do you mean?
Well, it's field 3, but they also call it the senior field. It's kind of like 66 wing. Everyone calls it something different. Because I have the same question.
Middle school. Got it.
Right. So where the press box is, where our star did his great Eagle Scout project,
Yeah.
that's field 1.
Yep.
The one in the back is 2.
Yep.
And then the one that's 3, also known as the senior field, is the one down at the bottom that gets really wet.
That's the one that is not maintained by the Little League.
That's the only one that well, actually, I don't even know that we authorized that to be maintained by Lebanon Public Schools.
Well, it's maintained by the town, but it's part of the mowing contract through the rec commission.
Yeah, we had a meeting on this, Sarah.
I don't know what else
I
we
remember
did.
that, but I don't remember that we had decided that we were going to start using
No, because at the time we were waiting to see if we were actually going to have spring sports, so we never even revisited this
didn't.
again.
But it sounds like something has already happened, and is it possible that it was on the wrong field?
I don't think so. It's a bigger size field.
Okay. Just making sure.
So we still have another 1 year to dirt out and passing front out again tomorrow. So just to let you know, DPW are actually going at 30 yards of fence. We know that Lebanon Public Schools donated labor, as well as all the work that outside donated labor as well, and again, equipment to get this all done. So this year's project, if you will.
When you say donated labor, Kevin, what exactly does that mean?
So in other words, the John Jordan was working, doing his daily stuff, in Lebanon Elementary School, Lebanon Middle School, Lion Royal High School. We donated man hours to have this work done at the elementary school, to have these wheels about up to date. Because it doesn't seem like, I think part of the rec is lost. I believe they had 3 members that were volunteers that actually just worked out there. Those 3 members no longer available, so there's no reason to do the work.
So, Sarah, do you remember...
Yeah, but not anyone. Nobody not anybody the volunteers to drive. The volunteers who were free on the drive.
I remember one online meeting, there were athletic persons from the high school who came and said that they were maintaining it. That was new to this year because it hasn't been maintained in previous years. So I think that's what he's talking about. I'm assuming that's what he's talking about because
Scott Elliott was at that meeting.
He was at that meeting and he said that they were volunteering to maintain it.
Can you remind us, Nicole, quickly about that finance and facilities meeting and where we left it? Because I do not believe that we came to an agreement on us volunteering our custodian maintainers right now during COVID when we have other priorities. I do not remember us deciding that. I could be wrong.
We didn't decide anything, but I believe Scott Elliott and John Jarvis, they volunteer their time to maintain that field. But we left it off as we were waiting to see if we were going to have a spring season. This meeting was held on February 9th. The field is maintained by the town, but that would be for big projects. Then Scott and John Jarvis would get the field ready for the spring season, and then the Board of Ed would have to prep the field, so that would be Scott and John in concert with the Little League. Okay, and then the last thing that was said was we were going to propose to wait until we get closer to see if we're having a baseball season to figure out if we're going to do that on a yearly basis. That's where we left off.
Thank you. I knew you would have all those notes. So, Kevin, is this work being done on Field 3, on the correct field?
Yes, the field is all playable. That's my point at the end of the day is the field is all playable during much better shape than they have.
Great, but you do realize that we are not responsible and should not be donating, forgive me if I'm out of line, should not be donating man-hours to Little League Field.
You're not out of line because parents who put their kids in Little League are asked to volunteer to maintain those fields.
Thank you.
So one point that I need to make is that it's a Title IX issue because we have one softball field on our public school property. Sorry, 2 softball fields, but 1 baseball field. So we have to have another baseball field for the baseball to play on. So we've always used the middle school field when it was able to be used. We were sharing the high school field before.
Right. I'll check with Sandy.
Okay, thank you. I just don't like the way that this feels right
You want to have the next finance and facilities meeting? Do you want to invite Scott Elliott and we'll put, finalize this?
Little League president, it seems like.
Everyone. I mean, everyone who's involved should be, and then we'll iron this out.
That'd be great. And Alexa said she would talk to Parks and Rec as well.
Okay.
All right.
Should the team is done with Parks and Rec involved as well?
Yes. I do wish that we had the discussion before the project had been moved forward, though.
Okay, so we'll discuss this at the next Finance and Facilities Subcommittee meeting. We'll invite all the people involved, Little League, Park and Recs, and Board of Ed members that maintain that field.
I also just want to be clear that this Saturday is Little League field prep. So it might be nice to contact them beforehand. This seems like a hot mess, and I don't know how any of this really, who didn't communicate with whom, and if
Well, is the LMS baseball team even using it?
Yes.
They are.
And they started practicing. They had a game today, not home, but they started practicing, I think, 2 weeks ago.
Are they practicing on that field?
Yeah. That field is not used by Little League until there is potentially a junior-senior league team, which is in June.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, let's move along to our finance report, the 2020-2021 budget and quarterly report.
Do we have Bob today? I don't know.
I think so. Do we have Bob show? No.
Yeah, Bob's report.
Okay.
That's over shocking.
Thank you.
So I think you have the documents that he prepared, probably the most important one of which is any of the budget concerns and impact items as we continue to chug along with our budget as it is right now, so the 2021 budget. He had originally announced that we would end the year with a positive balance. And he felt that range would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $175,000 to $225,000, and he's feeling as though that is still holding true. The special ed excess cost reimbursement in late February, the district received the first excess cost reimbursement payment in the amount of $369,236, and that represents 75% of the full year payment. The state has projected that full year reimbursement at $492,315, which is about $36,738 higher than the revised budget and $162,815 higher the revised budget, and this is higher than the original budget. Still looking good, and we'll look at that in bullet 4. Total salary expenses for the year is forecast to be approximately $65,000 under budget, and reasons for this include the delayed hiring of our curriculum director until January, less use of substitutes, and that is probably also due in part that it's next to impossible to hire substitutes, and benefits of the early retirement incentive program. There are gains in these areas that are partially offset by the hiring of a 4th grade elementary school teacher, extra custodial staff, and the CNA due to COVID-19. Some of those positions are not in the projected next year's budget. Magnet school tuition was expected to be about $40,000 under budget at year end due to enrollment decreases. Currently, the variance is down at about $22,000 favorable, as the funds were transferred to purchase math calculators and newer language textbooks at Lyman High. As you know, when we had our discussion with the Board of Finance, we discussed some things which we would try to get done this year, especially now that we're looking at a variance in the proposed budget. Total costs for special ed, which include pupil services, student transportation, private and public tuition expenses, and Medicaid reimbursements have held steady since last month's forecast, and collectively are forecast to have a positive variance of approximately $204,000 at year end. I would caution us, I see our very skilled SPED director floating out there on the big screen, and I know that she is worrying, as we always do, that special ed can be volatile, and we might see a change in that, but right now we're looking at a $204,000 at year end. The year end forecast for group health insurance has improved again slightly and is expected to be about $55,000 over the budget. And one of the reasons for the negative variance is the early retirement insurance option, and that was selected by 3 employees. Our legal expenses currently are about $23,000 and change over budget through April 10th, and we think this line item will be over budgeted by about $50,000 to $60,000 at the end of June. Some of the things that have impacted that, of course, is the continuation of negotiations and some COVID-19 added expenses. Other expense accounts that will have favorable year-end balances since the pandemic are, of course, the athletic coaching stipends. We didn't have as much of that. Student travel, field trips, those kinds of things, as well as fees for officials and tournaments. And expenses will be continuously monitored to identify any unexpected changes or deviations in our expectations. I think that any type of major mood swing in what we see happening could really impact, the unexpected expenses. So that's where we are with our current budget. I'm keeping a very close eye on all that. Questions on that?
Question about this 2021 budget.
I just have one question on the list for the capital requests. I noticed that it's still not updated by priority. And the only reason why I'm saying anything is because the Board of Finance likes to see a prioritized list. And I know the truck, we've moved it to the bottom of the list, and I see it's still at the top. So maybe for the next Board of Ed packet, we can get that updated, just in case the Board of Finance ever asks us. I have it all written down in case...
we went through that.
Absolutely. I'm not sure why he wouldn't have done that, but, there's a lot changing for him and time. But we'll make a note of that and make sure that great. Because I believe the prioritization is done.
Yes, it is done. Yep, just needs to be recorded.
We should have it before the finance meeting.
Right. Yes. But I don't think we ever presented the finalized list, so when they ask, I want to be ready.
Yes.
Okay. The COVID relief funds, of course, I don't have a breakdown on what is currently left at this point. I know that we do have a number of items that have been suggested that we might buy ahead. Our attention has really been turned right now to the ESSER funds. We are looking at $347,000 and change, and that is for ESSER 2. And then we will have another round at that, which will be coming up fairly soon, and that's a little over $500,000. And that's the ARP ESSER. I don't know why they haven't just called it ESSER 3, but they're calling it the American Recovery Plan ESSER dollars. And then, of course, the 21-22 budget, which I think we all know what happened in that last Board of Finance meeting. So our last look at our budget was at 3.21% over the year before, which we had adjusted in February down to $20,294,038. And so what we've effectively lost in the decision, that is what I think will be brought to public hearing and to ultimately the annual town meeting, is $20 million flat. So being underfunded by about $294,000, almost $300,000. So we'll have to make some decisions with that. We have started that work in the ESSER 2 grant. We moved the very important social worker position out of the realm of this budget and pushed it over to the ESSER 2 grant. So we're working on that.
More information to come
Yes,
on that.
absolutely.
I have a question, Pat.
Yes.
So I see that the non-lapsing account has been moved from the Board of Finance. Now they put the money into the account, so now we're at 333, I believe, or 339.
Yeah.
I guess we'll have to talk about, because I firmly believe that the 3.1% increase, it contained a lot of very valuable positions and money that would certainly help our schools. I'm wondering if we can have a conversation of possibly using the non-lapsing, some of it, to offset the money that we're not getting from Board of Finance?
Yeah, we have quite a few things. I'm concerned, and I hope that we can settle it out before the April 19th public hearing, that we have a sense of the intention of the Board of Finance, because they did discuss taking any of our surpluses now in this budget, whatever we would have left, and putting it in a non-lapsing account. That they are insisting, or they did at least that evening, on earmarking it specifically for special education, and I think that would be a hardship for us. Certainly, if we were to need that for special education, that's one thing, but to earmark it specifically for that and it can't be used for anything else could be difficult. So yeah, I think we should have, and maybe it's a Board of Finance meeting where we sit and really think about that.
that would be helpful. Part of the conversation that evening was, we're sort of creating our own fund balance, right? Just like the town has $6 million, and the town fund balance, and we're sort of creating our own in our own non-lapsing, right? But then how do we plan? Yeah. How are we planning for our infrastructure repair? How are we going to plan when, all of this money is going into non-lapsing for use of special ed funds? And we're getting, we're getting cut. I was really disappointed. I was really hoping that we were heard.
Yep, same.
And I think we were heard to some extent, but I do know that not all Board of Finance members are even supporting the 20.
No, I know, and it's very disappointing.
And it's my understanding that they're not supposed to look at the ESSER funding and American Relief and say, well, they're getting all that, so...
But they are.
But that's not what the grants are intended for. And I think it's a matter of education and what are our priorities. And we've done such a good job communicating. Pat has just done a fantastic job communicating our needs. I don't know how to communicate it really anymore. So I was just a bit disappointed that we were, cut as much as we were, and maybe even further.
I was a little disappointed I wrote down a quote from one of the Board of Finance members that said that he doesn't want to see the fund balance grow anymore. Well, it's going to grow because people are still paying taxes. So what more than to invest in our schools? Our schools are in need of repair and maintenance. What more reason do you need than to pour money into our schools and help our students out? If you don't want to see the fund balance grow anymore, then invest. That's what you need to do. And I was just disappointed that he made that comment.
Does anybody have any ideas on ways that we can communicate more within our town and get them to understand, this is what we're looking at. Is it a building walkthrough? Not during COVID, clearly, because we can't have more people in our building, but is that what it's going to take?
I don't know.
If you have any ideas, board members, please.
I would suggest a walkthrough. I don't know why you can't have a couple people with masks on walk through buildings. We have public people come in here. Why couldn't you have them take a tour and see what's happening in the schools?
I'm not sure what your thoughts would be on that right now, Pat. In my own district, really nobody else is allowed in the buildings at this moment, but good thing.
Sure.
Dawn?
So I think that people watch and see that if people on the board can't convince the Board of Finance, then they're not going to try, because why try? Sadly. However, they have a lot of passion, but as do we. I think it's a lot of communication. I think it's a lot of communication, because I think, we know, and you know even better than I do, and we're both board members, about the specific issues in the schools, but we also need to be communicating about, it's not about helping out the kids. That language is why I kind of keep calling us on it. It's not about helping out the kids, it's about helping out our system, about our school district, in order to support our current students, future students, and bringing students in. So I think I've been talking about communication plans since I got on the board, and nothing, has come to fruition, but I really think it's about parents and community members understanding truly what our district is dealing with, both current students, future students, and possibly incoming students.
There's this idea out there that the Lebanon taxpayers cannot afford but there is also research and data that we need to be looking at. Real, true, and honest numbers, if we're going to be honest with ourselves. Compare our district to to our dirt and into our surrounding district. You need to be more vigilant on that. Maybe as board members we could dive into that a little bit and present it in a way. I'm not sure. I think that we should be open and looking for out of the box, ways to communicate better. Nicole and I met a few different times with Board of Finance members, so we were really positive.
Right.
We really were.
Yeah, so just offer one more comment. One place that I find myself continuously frustrated is when I talk about communications, which is like what you're talking about in terms of like understanding the data and being able to like share that with people, is that I have, as a board member, been told board members are not supposed to be doing this work. I was told that from the previous superintendent multiple times, which is why I stopped. But in my mind, and that might just have been that particular person's opinion, I just don't know. I don't know what my role is at that point as a board member. I'm supposed to be on the communications committee, but I don't know what to do. We haven't had a meeting because I don't know what to do. So, just throwing that out there. Just being honest. Not looking for an answer, just communicating that.
I think you should start with another meeting.
They said yes.
Okay, was that all for the budget? I'm sorry that we sort of took that on us.
No worries.
Any other questions on the 2021-22 budget? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to our action items. Action item number 1 is act on letter of resignation.
Is it both at this point?
It should be act on letters of resignation. Thank you, Dawn.
I move that we accept the resignation.
With regret.
Motion by Maureen.
Second.
Seconded by Nicole. Any discussion? Danelle?
Speaking of communication, do we have an exit interview for people that are resigning or retiring?
We do.
Well,
We do.
we think we do. Sorry, we talked about this for a really long time and tried to get it going. I don't know where it left off.
We did have an exit interview. Remember, we saw some exit interviews.
We heard. We didn't say nothing. I'm sorry. We did a lot of work on it and we got nowhere.
Yes.
Could we ask Chelsea if she has any record of that time? I believe that there was something, we got around 1 year.
So that's another example of what the communication committee had been working on, but I didn't actually see any. I didn't see any.
So how about if Chelsea has something,
Sure.
could she forward it to Dawn to handle the communications? Are you comfortable with that, Dawn?
Yes.
Great, thank you. It would be nice to get some input. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of approving the letters of resignation with regret? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Item number 2, act on the 2021 graduation date. With the graduation date.
June 18th.
That's right. Yeah, I believe the calendar is in your packet.
So it's June 18th. May I ask you a quick question about the calendar?
Sure.
So June 15th and 16th has 3 lines. I don't know what 3 lines means because there's not 3 lines in the... like it doesn't indicate LES, only 2 lines indicate LMS and LES. Like, I think there might be an error on the 15th and 16th, and I would just like to correct that if that's the case.
Maybe it means that the LES and the LMS and the LMA.
Well, no, because an asterisk would mean all.
Oh, you're right.
I just imagine this going out to parents and then being like, I don't understand what's happening.
It's a good catch. Well, it makes sense. I don't know what 3 lines means either.
I think it's just error.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we looking at June 18th as the graduation date? The 15th.
But the last date is June 18th.
The last date is June 18th. Do we need early dismissal dates for LMS and LMHS on Tuesday and Wednesday? So the calendar looks like this. 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th are currently all early dismissals for the middle school and the high school.
Sarah, if the calendar does say the 3 lines are LMHS only.
Where does it say
There's
that?
a code on the calendar on the website.
No, it's just not on this paper?
This page. Okay. I just found it
So it's just Lyman. Thank you.
Just Lyman, yep, so that's 11th and 14th on this, says, this is before it got updated to the 18th. It has the 11th and 14th with the 3 lines, so that would be only Lyman early release, and then the 15th and 16th are all preschool.
So how could we ever have Lyman only because the buses carry
It's always done that time.
both?
They do have to do the 3 runs those days.
Maybe 3 then?
Yeah, it's because of finals and...
The exam.
Gotcha. So the paper doesn't indicate what 3 lines mean.
Okay, so that just needs to be...
Needs to be in the ledger.
Yeah. Okay, and that would leave us to the 18th as the last day of school and also graduation, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Apicelli, does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, I was just trying to find that on the website.
Okay, so if we set that as graduation
The
date?
18th?
Yes.
Do we also set the middle school and elementary graduation date?
No, typically it's the day before, and the elementary school is 2 days before.
So the 16th and 17th.
No.
Okay, would anybody like to make a motion to act on the 2021 graduation date?
Motion to approve the graduation date for June 18th, 2021.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Nicole, seconded by Danelle. Any further discussion? Dawn?
No,
Oh, okay. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of June 18th, the graduation date, that is unanimous. Thank you very much.
And I do see the current calendar as they're talking about does have that ledger.
Okay, great. Great. Thank you. It just happens to be the one that was updated with the extra dates. Okay. All right, action item number 3, act on non-renewal, non-tenure, and 1-year contract process. Can you have a little background on this?
Absolutely. Surprisingly, what I think the process has been in the past is that you are acting on issuing letters of non-renewal to individuals who are on durational contracts or 1-year contracts. So their agreements state that they are only working for 1 year. And then individuals may get a new agreement if it's necessary. Those agreements state that. What seems to have been missing is the fact that by statute, we are required to let anyone who may be under consideration for non-renewal because they are not tenured. So if we have newer employees, we feel that they are supervisors, administrators, or whatever, have been working all year and feel that that individual is not quite performing at the standards levels or are simply not displaying what they have a right to be told that before May 15th, and it's in statute. And I guess our system here has been different. So if you are non-tenured and you are being non-renewed, not because of discipline or any of those kinds of things, you must be informed before May 1st that your position could be in jeopardy because of contractual obligations, the board's budget has not been approved. If you went to the April 19th meeting and we were cut another $500,000 and had to exercise a reduction in force. So it's fair, wise, and conscientious to let people know that their position is in jeopardy. Again, this is not for cause. This is not a problem that they're, exhibiting. It's not their performance. It's simply if there's a reduction in force that's necessary. So what I have never worked with a board that has had to vote on every one of these kinds of things. So that is why it's on your agenda, as the board is simply acknowledging that the superintendent is going to go through that process. And typically what happens is a letter is issued, we're so very sorry, the board appreciates your service, but this position may be in jeopardy if the budget doesn't pass. And once the budget passes, then I drive around and say, let's tear up that letter, here's another one that says you're fine. So that's the process.
Do you need a motion, Sarah?
Well, how do we go about adopting this it's a law, it's a state statute that we have to follow.
I would suggest that you simply a motion for the Board of Ed to approve the superintendent's process for issuing non-renewal for non-tenure, and since you've always done the one-year contract in individuals.
Okay, one-year contract. Okay.
The process.
Okay.
The superintendent's process.
Who would like to make a motion?
That we approve the superintendent's process for non-renewal, non-tenure, and one-year contract.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Maureen, seconded by Nicole. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. And thank you for that pass.
You're welcome.
All right, our next item on the agenda, I believe, is just a compliance issue on the Connecticut nutrition standards for the 2021-2022 school year. This is items number 4 and 5.
So we have to have,
I think we're used to this, Pat. We've had to do this every year to approve the Connecticut or act to comply with the nutrition standards, correct? Does anybody want to hear more about this before we go to No? Okay, is there a motion on the floor for number 4, action item number 4?
Actually, we'll be taking 2.
2 different motions,
I just don't remember what the motion was.
I guess I'll make a motion to comply with the Connecticut nutrition standards for the 21-22 school year.
Thank you, John.
Second.
Seconded by Nicole. Any discussion? All those in favor of complying with the Connecticut nutrition standards for the 2021-22 school year, raise your hand. Thank you. That passes unanimously. Item number 5 is to act on the exclusion of selected foods from the Connecticut nutrition standards and selected beverages from Section 10-221Q of the Connecticut General Statutes for the 2021-22 school year. Is there a motion on the floor?
Come on, John, do it again.
I'll try. I'd like to make a motion motion that we, so moved.
Did you get that, Maureen? Motion by John, seconded by Maureen. Any discussion?
No, it was seconded. Oh, I was sticking my hand.
Okay. Seconded by Nicole. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll move on to action item number 6, which we do need to have some discussion about, to act on the 2021-22 tuition rate for children of certified staff. Just as a background, the board did vote beginning of this school year.
You did vote in October, at the October board meeting. You voted to accept that certified staff members' children may attend schools if there was room, at the time at no cost to the parent, with the exception of any potential special education costs. At this time, tuition rate for students who were to come here is about, you voted a meeting or two ago, your tuition rate at $11,652 per child. It would appear that what was presented to you at the time of your vote in October was that you would consider allowing children of certified staff to attend these schools at 25% of the tuition cost. Were you to go with that now, the tuition cost would be $2,913. Your motion really, if that were the way that you would go, your motion would have the exemption of any additional costs, including any support services provided through special education or 504 accommodation. And that is critical because those are additional costs. And the last time you did this motion, you did include the exception of special ed, but not the 504. And that could become, could become very costly. So those accommodations, special education or 504, would be billed separately, and we could put that into the motion. So the choices are that you are taking a motion to allow certified staff to educate their children here if there is room at no cost, with the exception of special ed and 504 costs to be billed separately, or at 25% of tuition costs with the addition of special education or 504 costs billed separately. I think that's where you want to be thinking.
What was it before we had any of this?
11,000.
No, I meant for the certified staff, like 2 years ago, what was the cost? Or 3 years ago, what was the cost?
We never had certified staff have children here.
Well, in 2011-12, it appears as though you had a 26% tuition rate if someone were bringing their children. And in 2006-07, you appear to have had a 28% tuition rate. I believe that at this juncture, due to COVID, you had one certified staff member taking the option.
And we do have a board policy
Yes.
In the packet.
Right.
And it does state in item number 3, policy 5118.2, tuition for children of staff members will be set yearly by the Board of Education at the time other tuition rates are set. We did not do. But we're just
a quick note for policy. Do we have policy?
That
It says and service, special services. Does that include it, or do we need to be more specific?
I think it's in the motion, but in the Yeah, I don't know, in the,
Also says special education and special services. 504 would be special services.
yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's interpretation.
Semantics, yeah.
Yeah, so, if you're concerned about that, it would be worth...
We haven't updated this, it's still got the old number, it's something we can look at with everything else. It's on my list.
Thanks, Maureen. All right, great. I think that we've been given a good background. We can certainly discuss this further after there's a motion on the floor. Does anybody want to make a motion before we discuss further?
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
Motion to approve certified staff to have their children attend Lebanon Public Schools at 25% the tuition rate.
Outside of special ed.
Outside of special ed and 504.
Or to be specific, that special ed services and 504 services would be billed separately.
Okay. You got that, Maureen?
Motion by Nicole, there's a second. Seconded by Danelle. Any discussion? Discussion, all those in favor of a tuition rate at 25% outside of special ed or 504 accommodations billed separately, please raise your hand. That passes unanimously. Dawn?
No.
No? Okay. All right, very good. Thank you very much. Great. Now we have item number 7. To act on the LED project for Lebanon Public Schools. Nicole, did you want to go into this at all anymore?
Yeah, I'll just briefly, so you have an update. So we approved a couple months ago to replace lamp and drivers, and we would be looking at a savings of $371.20 a month, I believe, and that's 48 months at 0%. But now Earthlight has come up with a new incentive, which is hybrid. It's a hybrid for new controlled LED fixtures and lamp and driver replacements. Eversource is kicking in more incentive money for that, and then we would be saving only $20.58. But in the end, we're getting more lighting fixtures, and we're still saving money. And this is 84 months at 0% financing. So I would like to move on this week, and our subcommittee met, and we all agreed that the hybrid would be the way to go. I'd like to move on this now because the next step is they're going to do another walkthrough to see exactly which areas they're going to replace. They need 4 to 8 weeks to order materials, and then they need 8 weeks of installation. So I just want to make sure this work is all done before the first day of school next year.
Great, thanks, Nicole. Matt had his hand up next to you.
Well, I just wanted to say that the number that they gave on the savings is probably lower than it's going to be because come May, the price of electricity is going to go up for everybody because it was put off from last year because of the storm. There's going to be a significant increase in your electric bill, which is going to turn into that $20 at this rate is probably going to be more than that. Not that it's going to be a huge difference, but it's definitely going to be more than $20.
Savings
is what I'm driving at going forward, and I think anything for 0% financing in today's economy, not a bad thing.
Any questions? Okay, great. We can have more discussion on it if you'd like, but I do need a motion on the floor.
Can I make? Oh, good.
Make a motion that we go with option 2, the hybrid model with 24-month.
84.
Yeah, 84-month, 84-month payout and the better, more expensive version.
The new controlled LED fixtures and lamp and driver.
Yeah, right here. The other one would have been 28.
I don't have that paper.
Do Do you want it, Dawn?
No, I don't want to make a decision on something that I don't have access to, so I'll just, it's all right. I'm not going to make a decision for the next moment.
Okay. Maureen, did you get Matt's motion?
I have that motion.
Okay, Matt made a motion. Did anybody second?
I can second.
John seconded. Any further discussion?
Just a quick, the subcommittee was definitely recommending that we move forward.
Yep. The heavy lift happened a few months ago. This was just brought to us again today as like an upgrade.
I mean, the bottom line is it's an upgrade at net zero cost to the school going forward with potential savings as the price of electricity goes up. And then once it's paid off after 84 months, that savings comes back even more.
I know you guys did a lot of work on it, but I want to make sure that everyone's in agreement. They're all in agreement, and that was their recommendation. So,
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Any more discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving the hybrid LED project with Lebanon Public Schools, raise your hand. Okay. That passes unanimously. Good. Thank you very much. Items for next agenda.
I have a question about, are we making, maybe Jay can answer this, are we making a new Lyman video for attracting outside people? Is that underway right now?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is.
Great.
I'm actually meeting with the producer tomorrow to go over the first draft of the video.
Okay.
Do you think we could see it when it's done?
Oh, of course. Of course.
Great. Any other items for next agenda?
Just, I don't know if we talked about it, but we had talked about scholarships and Board of Finance and things, and I don't know if we got resolution to that, but that's coming up really quick.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Any others? All right, great. If you have any, feel free to email them my way, Pat's way, both of our ways. That would be great. All right, thank you very much. We will adjourn at 9:39.
Wow, we're early.
And cookies. Why do you say no cookies? I was in a